Imagine having the power to um, literally shatter mountains, right?
Yeah.
But you're so totally convinced of your own ordinary limitations that you just sit on a beach waiting to die of starvation.
Yeah, it sounds absurd, but it's a very real phenomenon.
Exactly. I mean, if you've ever felt entirely paralyzed by a challenge in front of you, what we're exploring today suggests you aren't actually lacking resources. You're just, well, suffering from a case of mistaken identity.
That is the perfect way to put it.
Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're taking a journey from the crushing illusion of limitation to the realization of infinite potential. We're going to do a sort of simplified awakening, really decoding ancient wisdom. And real quick, before we jump in, if you enjoy these deep dives, please humbly consider subscribing and share your valuable comments with us. It really helps the show.
Absolutely. We love hearing from you. So for today's mission, we're layering two incredibly rich, seemingly totally different sources to decode the actual mechanics of spiritual awakening.
Right, because we have the philosophy and then we have the action.
Exactly. We're looking at the theoretical physics of the soul, essentially, and then watching that physics play out in an epic narrative. Our first source is the profound analytical philosophy of Swami Vivekananda, specifically his legendary 1893 Chicago addresses.
And the second source is the ancient Valmiki Ramayana. We're specifically focusing on the Kishkinda and Sandarkanas, supplemented by some texts from the Puranas detailing the adventures of Hanuman.
So Vivekananda provides the framework, and Hanuman provides this undeniable proof of concept.
Yeah, so let's ground this by stepping into the room. It's Chicago, September 1893, at the World's Parliament of Religions.
Just picture the cultural weight of that moment, right? You have this vast audience, and they represent the absolute pinnacle of the Occidental mind. It's the booming, industrialized, very self-assured West.
Right, the titans of industry and Western theology.
Exactly. And onto this massive platform steps an unknown monk from India, just clad in yellow robes. He represents an ocean of spiritual development that dates back thousands of years to the Vedas.
But he doesn't step up there to convert anybody, does he?
No, not at all. He steps up to completely shatter their paradigm of how humans relate to the divine and to each other. He delivers this message of radical, universal acceptance.
And he didn't rely on dry theological jargon either. That's what I love about him. He was a master storyteller. He used these vivid images to explain human behavior. Like one of the standout moments from the source material is his analogy of the frog in the well.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic.
Right. He describes this little frog who has lived its entire existence at the bottom of a well. It cleanses the water, gets sleek and fat, and just naturally assumes that this dark, damp cylinder is the entire universe.
Because why wouldn't it? That's all it knows.
Exactly. But then a frog from the sea accidentally falls in, and the sea frog tries to explain the sheer scale of the ocean. And the well frog just, it simply cannot compute it. It takes a tiny leap from one side of the well to the other and asks, is your sea this big?
And of course, the sea frog is like, no. So the
Yeah.
well frog keeps leaping, trying to map the infinite ocean onto its own finite reality.
This is impassable.
Right. And eventually, the cognitive dissonance is just too much. The well frog gets furious, calls the sea frog a liar, and demands he be kicked out.
No.
Vivekananda used this brilliant, simple mechanism to explain the root cause of sectarianism and bigotry. A person sits in the well of their specific worldview, whether that's a religious dogma, a political ideology, or a scientific assumption, and genuinely believes their well is the absolute boundary of truth.
The well isn't just a location, it's a perceptual prison. It kind of makes me think of, people arguing vehemently over whether iOS or Android is the quote-unquote true operating system, completely ignoring the invisible current of electricity that powers all of them.
That's a great modern analogy.
But that raises a massive question for you and me, the listener, everyone. If we are actually meant to be this vast, limitless ocean, why do we constantly opt to trap ourselves in these tiny mental wells?
Well, that is the core philosophical problem Vivekananda tackles in his paper on Hinduism, which he delivered a few days later. And to answer it, he introduces this radical definition of the self.
Okay, lay it on me.
He asserts that the soul is not a localized object. He describes it as a circle whose circumference is nowhere, but whose center is located in the body.
Wait, a circle whose circumference is nowhere. That completely inverts how most of us view ourselves.
I know, it's mind-bending. Because if you accept that premise, then we are not physical bodies that just happen to house a spirit. We are infinite, eternal consciousness temporarily anchoring our center of experience in a physical form.
So death is What, just a shifting of that center?
Exactly. Death is merely a shifting of that center from one coordinate to another. The circumference remains infinite.
Man, this shifts the entire foundation of that 1893 audience's worldview. And because of this infinite framework, Vivekananda drops a total bombshell on them.
He really does.
He tells the audience it is a sin to call a man a sinner. He literally looks out at humanity and calls them children of immortal bliss. He says, "Ye divinities unearthed sinners." It is a standing libel on human nature.
He is rejecting the concept of innate human corruption outright. He's telling them their fundamental operating system is pure, free, and unbounded. The bugs in the system are acquired. They're not inherent.
Right, but I have to push back here using the logical extreme of his own argument. If the soul is so utterly perfect and infinite and immortal, how did it get diluted?
Yeah.
Like, how does a boundless spirit develop amnesia and start believing it's just a fragile, decaying body?
That is the ultimate paradox of Vedantic philosophy. It's often referred to as Maya, or illusion. And Vivekananda's response to this is startlingly honest. He simply says, "I do not know."
He just admits it.
Yeah. He points out that trying to figure out how the infinite became finite using a finite human brain is fundamentally impossible. It's literally like trying to measure the depth of the ocean with a ruler made of water. The instrument you're using to measure the illusion is made of the illusion itself.
That's fascinating. So just naming the phenomenon doesn't actually explain the mechanism.
Exactly. The undeniable fact remains that we are in this restricted state. Vivekananda explains that we're bound by the momentum of our past actions and habits, our karma.
Right.
He uses this really visceral image of humanity acting like a tiny boat in a tempest, raised one moment on the foamy crest of a wave and dashed down into a yawning chasm the next, completely at the mercy of external forces.
A tiny boat in a tempest. I mean, that is the perfect description of feeling utterly powerless against your perceived limitations.
And the mechanism for escaping that tempest isn't to build a stronger boat or to fight the waves. It's to wake up to your true ancient nature. You have to remember that you aren't the boat at all. You are the ocean itself experiencing a storm.
Okay, so Vivekananda gives us the theoretical physics of the soul. But to actually see this physics in motion, we have to look at our second source.
Yes, let's get into the epic.
We're going to journey into the Valmiki Ramayana, specifically entering the Kishkinda. The context here is that Prince Rama, who is an avatar of the divine, is searching the forests of India for his abducted wife, Sita.
And as Rama and his brother Lakshmana navigate the dense forest of Kishkinda, they are approached by this humble, wandering monk. But this is no ordinary ascetic. It's Hanuman in disguise.
Right, he was sent to gather intelligence on these armed strangers.
Exactly.
What really fascinates me about this initial meeting is that Rama, who represents supreme cosmic order, is instantly captivated by this monk. The source highlights Rama extensively, praising Hanuman's flawless grammar, his precise pronunciation, and his deep mastery of the Veda.
It's a great moment. It establishes Hanuman not just as a creature of immense physical power, but as a being of incredible intellect and refinement.
Yeah, and through this intellectual connection, an alliance is forged. Hanuman introduces Rama to his king, Sugriva. Now, Sugriva is a monkey king living in terrifying exile, hiding in the mountains from his incredibly powerful, tyrannical brother, Bali.
And Sugriva presents Rama with a piece of jewelry, right?
Yes. It's an ornament Sita actually dropped from the sky while being carried away by the demon king Ravana. Seeing this proof, an alliance by fire is made. Rama will help Sugriva defeat Bali and reclaim his throne. And in return, Sugriva will mobilize his massive army to find Sita.
The backstory between Sugriva and Bali is such a tragic study in how easily reality gets distorted. It basically all began with a misunderstanding.
Yeah, the cave story.
Right. The brothers were chasing a demon named Mayavi who fled into a deep subterranean cave. Bali went in to fight, ordering Sugriva to guard the entrance. And an entire year passed.
A whole year just waiting at the entrance.
Exactly. Finally, Sugriva saw this torrent of blood flowing out of the cave entrance. Hearing demonic roars and assuming Vali was dead, Sugriva sealed the cave with a massive boulder to protect the kingdom and reluctantly took the throne.
But Vali had survived.
He had. He returned, saw Sugriva ruling, assumed it was a deliberate, treacherous coup, and just brutally exiled him.
This tragic knot of misunderstanding leads directly to the climax of their conflict, where Rama fulfills his end of the alliance. During a brutal, earth-shaking hand-to-hand duel between Sugriva and Vali, Rama actually conceals himself behind a cluster of trees and shoots Vali with a single, fatal arrow.
It's a very intense sequence.
Reading this, I gotta say, it's jarring. Rama is the ultimate symbol of dharma, of righteousness and moral order, yet he strikes a combatant from concealment. I mean, it feels highly transactional, almost unheroic. How does the text justify the divine acting like a sniper?
That's a very common question. It forces us to confront the sheer, tangled complexity of Dharma. The epic doesn't shy away from the messy reality of cause and effect. Rama explains to a dying Vali that as a representative of the emperor, it's his duty to punish a king who has stolen his brother's wife and kingdom.
Okay, so there is a legal justification.
Yes, but the true resolution comes from Vali himself. In his dying moments, his perception finally clears. He actually accepts Rama's action. Yeah. He hands his golden chain of command to Sugriva and instructs his own son, Angada, to serve Sugriva loyally. It demonstrates that even divine intervention operates within the heavy, complex web of karma that Vivekananda described. Every action has momentum, and everyone must navigate the tempest.
Wow. So with Vali's blessing, Sugriva is reinstated. The monsoon season passes and the search for Sita begins. Sugriva dispatches millions of searchers to the four corners of the earth. We follow the southern expedition spearheaded by Prince Angada, the ancient, wise bear king Jambavan, and Hanuman.
And the Valmiki Ramayana details this exhausting, grueling search. I mean, they scour impenetrable forests, jagged peaks, deep valleys. They're pushed to the absolute brink of starvation and dehydration.
And in this desperate state, they stumble upon a massive, pitch-black cavern called Orksabila.
The Cave of Illusion.
Yes, the imagery here is deeply psychological. They literally have to hold hands to navigate the suffocating darkness, eventually emerging into this bizarre, glowing subterranean paradise. There are trees made of solid gold, lakes of crystal water, and an ascetic woman named Swayamprabha.
And she generously feeds them these magical fruits that instantly cure their exhaustion.
But there's a devastating catch.
Always a catch.
Anyone who enters this cave loses their perception of time, and they can never leave on their own. They've been resting, but the deadline Sugriva gave them to find Sita has long expired.
Swayamprabha ultimately has to use her ascetic merit, her accumulated spiritual power, to essentially teleport them out of the cavern.
You know, this cave is a brilliant metaphor for the traps we face in life. It's sensory deprivation disguised as paradise.
Oh, absolutely.
It represents those comfortable holding patterns, like a high-paying job you secretly despise, or a relationship of mere convenience, or any distraction that neutralizes your drive by just meeting your immediate base needs. It feels golden, but it systematically shuts down the part of your brain that remembers you have a vital mission.
And in the process, it steals your most unrenewable resource time.
Yes.
That is the precise danger of the cave. It makes you forget the ocean you're supposed to be seeking. And the bitter reality hits them the second they emerge back into the sunlight. Because standing before them is the ultimate physical barrier.
The actual ocean.
Yes, the vast, churning, seemingly infinite ocean dividing the southern tip of India from the island fortress of Lanka.
The psychological whiplash here is total. Prince Angada realizes they cannot return. Returning after the deadline means execution by Sugriva. So the entire southern army literally sits down on the beach, spreads sacred grass, and prepares to observe a fast to the death.
They are the perfect embodiment of Vivekananda's powerless, helpless wreck right now. They are entirely paralyzed by the boundary of the ocean.
But at the absolute nadir of their despair, the narrative introduces a catalyst. Out of a nearby mountain emerges Sampati, the ancient Vulture King.
Right, he's the elder brother of Jatayu, the heroic bird who died trying to save Sita from Ravana's chariot earlier in the epic.
And Sampati is a tragic figure himself. His wings are completely burnt away. He explains that in their youth, he and his brother arrogantly raced toward the sun. To protect his younger brother from the scorching heat, Sampati shielded Jatayu with his own body, losing his wings forever.
But Sampati possesses a unique genetic trait. As a descendant of the divine bird Garuda, he has super sensuous vision.
Which comes in handy right about now.
To say the least. Standing on the beach, despite his mutilation, he peers across the curvature of the earth and actually sees Sita. He informs the monkeys she's being held captive in Lanka, exactly 100 yoursanas away, which is roughly 800 miles across the violent sea.
And the moment Sampati delivers this intelligence, a profound karmic mechanism triggers. By using his remaining ability to perform a selfless act in service of a divine mission, a pair of magnificent new wings miraculously shoots forth from his scarred sides.
It's beautiful. The text is showing us that acting selflessly rather than wallowing in personal limitation is the very mechanism that restores your dormant power.
Okay, so they now have the intelligence. The objective is locked. But knowing the destination and possessing the capacity to reach it are vastly different things. Which brings us to the threshold of the Sundarkanda, and arguably the most pivotal psychological intervention in world literature.
We hit a severe crisis of confidence. Angada polls the commanders asking who can leap the ocean. One says 10 yohanas, another 20, another 80. Angada himself says he can leap the 100 yohanas to Lanka, but admits he wouldn't have the kinetic energy left to fight his way back.
So the greatest warriors on earth are just standing there, motionless, negotiating with their limitations.
Exactly. And amidst this panic, Hanuman is sitting entirely apart, silent and withdrawn.
He has completely succumbed to amnesia. He is the frog in the well, looking at an 800-mile ocean, and genuinely believing he is just an ordinary monkey whose physical limits end at the shoreline.
This is when Jambavan, the ancient bear king, intervenes. And Jambavan's approach is a masterclass in psychological awakening. He doesn't offer Hanuman new weapons or magical spells. He simply walks up to the silent Hanuman and begins to narrate Hanuman's own origin story back to him.
Oh, I love this part.
He reminds Hanuman that he is the biological son of Vayu, the god of the wind. He recounts how, as an infant, Hanuman leaped toward the sun itself, mistaking it for a glowing fruit. He reminds him of the divine boons of invulnerability granted by Brahma and Indra.
Jambavan is doing the exact same thing Vivekananda did in Chicago. He isn't granting Hanuman power. He is systematically dismantling the illusion of Hanuman's weakness. Vivekananda stood before humanity and said, "Wake up, children of immortal bliss." Jambavan stands before Hanuman and says, "Wake up, child of the wind. The leaping capacity within you exceeds all created beings."
And the physical manifestation of this psychological shift is spectacular. As the truth penetrates his amnesia, the Valmiki Ramayana describes Hanuman physically expanding. He literally shakes off his accumulated grief. His hair stands on end, and his aura glows like a smokeless fire.
The sheer kinetic energy of his realization forces the other monkeys to back away in awe.
Right, they can feel the power radiating off him.
Hanuman roars that he can circumambulate Mount Meru 1,000 times without pausing for breath. He declares he could deluge the earth simply by pushing the ocean's waters with his bare arms. And to convey the sheer scale of his awakened state, he compares his impending leap to the Trivikrama avatar.
For you listening, the Trivikrama avatar is the moment Lord Vishnu expanded his cosmic form to literally measure the entire universe in just 3 massive strides.
So Hanuman is stating that his physical leap will be a microcosm of that divine universal expansion.
He has officially shifted his center from the finite body to the infinite circumference. And to execute the leap, Hanuman scales Mount Mahendra. Now, synthesizing the descriptions from the Ramayana with the Agni and Padma Puranas, we see the mechanics of raw power.
It's basically a rocket launch.
It literally is. As he compresses his energy and presses down to launch, the tectonic force is so immense that the mountain itself groans, crumbles, and releases subterranean water. Trees are uprooted by the sheer vacuum of his acceleration as he shoots into the sky like a lightning bolt.
But the journey across the sky proves that true power isn't just brute force. It requires supreme adaptability. The sources detail 3 major obstacles he encounters over the ocean, each testing a different facet of his awakened mind.
First up, the Golden Mount Mainaka rises from the sea depths, offering Hanuman a place to rest.
Which is a test of his focus, and maybe potential greed. An unawakened mind would stop, completely seduced by the gold and the comfort. But Hanuman doesn't break his momentum. And he doesn't destroy the mountain either. He just gently touches the peak with his hand, respectfully acknowledging the hospitality, and accelerates onward.
The second major test is much darker. He is intercepted by Simhika, this massive demoness, who hunts by catching the shadow of her prey on the water, physically paralyzing them midair. She opens a mouth large enough to swallow him whole.
Okay, so how does he handle that?
Well, this is where we see the mechanics of true intelligence. If Hanuman were operating purely on ego, he would have expanded to fight her.
Somewhere trying to outmuscle her.
Exactly. But instead, seeing her massive open jaws, he instantly shrinks his massive form down to the size of a thumb, darts into her mouth, shreds her vital organs from the inside, and shoots back out before she can even close her jaws. It perfectly demonstrates that recognizing your infinite nature allows you to be as massive as the universe or as microscopic as a subatomic particle, depending on what the situation demands.
So he utilizes force, respect, and microscopic subtlety. And then he finally lands on the shores of Lanka. And again, instead of charging in like a mindless juggernaut, he shrinks down to the size of a cat to infiltrate the heavily fortified city undetected.
Smart.
He searches every palace, every courtyard, and finally locates Sita in the Ashoka Grove. He gently presents her with Rama's signet ring, providing undeniable proof that rescue is coming and offering her the hope she needs to survive.
Now, his mission is technically accomplished at this point, but his awakened intellect pushes further. He decides to gather critical intelligence on the enemy's strength. He intentionally allows himself to be captured standing face to face with the terrifying Ravana.
And when they attempt to execute him by setting his tail on fire,
He uses that very fire to systematically burn the military infrastructure of Lanka to the ground.
he literally weaponizes their own punishment against them. Having crippled the enemy's defenses, he returns to the shore, launches himself back across the impossible ocean, and lands among his waiting comrades, presenting Rama with Sita's hairpin. The impossible mission is complete.
It's incredible.
And it is staggering to realize that none of this, the leaps, the tactical brilliance, the sheer bending of reality, none of it would have happened if he had remained sitting on that beach, convinced he was just a powerless monkey.
When we pull the lens back, the synthesis of these sources reveals a singular, enduring truth. Whether it is a 19th century monk standing at a podium in Chicago systematically proving that humanity is composed of immortal bliss, or an ancient Sanskrit epic detailing the mechanics of a monkey god remembering he can fly, the core physics are identical. You are only ever limited by your forgotten nature.
You listening right now have your own impossible oceans to cross. You certainly face your own comfortable, well-meaning caves of gold that threaten to neutralize your drive and consume your time. What both Vivekananda and the Ramayana are telling you is that you are not the tiny, fragile boat being battered by the tempest. You possess the sheer capacity of the wind that drives the storm.
The power doesn't need to be acquired. The amnesia simply needs to be removed.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over today. We saw that in the epic, Hanuman, despite possessing the literal power of a god, could not access it alone. He required Jambavan to step in, break the illusion, and remind him of his infinite potential. So look closely at the landscape of your own life. When the amnesia sets in, who is your Jambavan? And perhaps the more vital question, in a world crowded with people staring blankly at impossible oceans, whose Jambavan are you supposed to be today?